We are live.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, Runting's Rude Boy. Nabil Aziz, becomingthealphamuslim.com and the Becoming the Alpha Muslim podcast. And I'm taking over Jay Campbell's Facebook feed today because he's got the cool Zoom setup with the webinars and the live streaming to Facebook. And I'm sure Jay's audience will enjoy listening to Jay be interviewed because he's the one doing the interviewing most of the time. For my audience who's listening, let me just quickly share the link or share the Facebook feed on my pages so we can get more people listening. Jay, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, Nabil, man. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. This is, I think, our third time now. Love talking to you. Got so much to talk about. Love that you're a family man. Love that you're bringing the message that you bring to the international community, especially into the UAE and that parts of the world. As you know, it's desperately needed. So I'm just excited to be here with you today, brother.
Yeah, we're trying to awaken these sheep.
Yes, we are, my brother. We are doing a good job of it.
You know about this, huh? You know, I know. I see you on your Decoders of Truth podcast.
Absolutely, man.
So what have you been up to recently?
Just a ton of stuff, man. I mean, as you know, the new Advanced Strategies edition of the book is coming. It's now officially launching on January 15th. I have a big PR company promoting it. It's honestly the biggest endeavor of my life, dude. It's over 400 pages, over 630 research citations. It's just an absolute monster. This book, I can, honestly tell everyone is going to stand for 10 years. And the best part for me, and I'm really excited about this, is that the doctor who's writing the book with my wife, Dr. Jim Meehan, and of course, my lovely wife, Monica, for females, next year got their chapter to me in the last 3 days. Monica is actually feverishly typing in there right now, editing it along with one of my editing Nazis. And honestly, man, it is next level. Like, this book is already next level. And now that I have the woman's chapter at the level of content that it is, it changed the book. I mean, honestly, this book can now be promoted to women because I don't really know if there's a book in the world that has Jim's protocol in writing. I mean, he's been working with women for 13 years, and he's a really, really bright guy and extremely high conscious. And I'm in the right place at the right time. That's all I can tell you.
Definitely. I think you've got a lot of your friends and supporters who are sort of down with your mission as well, because obviously it's something noble that you're doing. All right, so I've got all the feeds shared, or awesome. the feeds shared in all my social feeds. So I'm going to introduce you to. Obviously, we're on your Facebook feed, so everybody knows you. But for those of my tribe who are listening, I'm going to introduce Jay for a little bit. So Jay is I guess you would call him a serial entrepreneur. He's a big real estate tycoon, and he's got multiple businesses, and also he's a fit bro, which is the reason why I had him on the show the first time. He's an evangelist of the optimum lifestyle, former champion physique competitor, just all round, basically maxing out on all his stats. Great shape. Wonderful business, wonderful family. The reason why I wanted to talk to Jay today is because I noticed something about Jay is that he makes people around him feel very important and feel very appreciated. And that is something for my Becoming the Alpha Muslim listeners, that is something that was actually a characteristic of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that whenever somebody spoke to him, he would make that person feel like he was the most important person in the world to him. And that ties into networking like a pro. And Jay is obviously a pro at networking. He's got, everybody on his show is his best friend, and he's got all these connections to everybody. And then he goes way back to the start when, he was there when Mike Cernovich started his media empire. So Jay is a guy you want to talk to if you want to learn how to network in the proper way, without seeming sleazy, without seeming like you're just in it to get something out of the other person. So I'll just start off the first question, and we'll see how the discussion goes from there. Were you always naturally, I mean, were you someone who was naturally good at this kind of networking that you would do? It seems to come naturally to you.
So it's a great question, and thank you for all those accolades. I appreciate it. I'm just a guy like you, man. And honestly, to go back just to you, I mean, you know, our relationship is very similar. You are the same person, man. I'm humbled and blessed and privileged to be around you. You do the exact same thing. So again, I like to think this is kind of like a conscious ecosystem, and that I meet people like you and you meet people like me, because that's what we put out into the karmic laws of the universe. But to answer your question, it's funny because when my skills and gifts as an orator, as a communicator, as a networker, as a connector come from my life as a nomadic son of a father who was ascending the corporate ladder, and we were living in all kinds of places. And I tell people this all the time. I lived in 4 states. I was in 4 different high schools in 4 years on the northeastern part and also the southeastern part of the United States. So I had to learn to adapt by being the new guy or the new kid in a new high school in a different state every single year. And it actually started when I was in 7th grade. So like I say, I moved like 5 times, but I hated it at the time because I was this new guy in a new school. I could never stay where, you know, and build my rep and my brand and all that stuff. I was always the new guy, but that experience in my early part of my life allowed me to become the communicator and the connector and the guy who can build networks so easily nowadays, because I really truly learned an appreciation of multiple cultures, right? Mm-hmm. Like I grew up poor, I became middle class, and then my father, and I was long gone, but my father became, you know, accomplished and as an executive and retired a millionaire. And so, you know, I've seen the gamut. You know, we lived in like very, very low end housing in Northern Kentucky. And then I was in like, you know, lower middle class in upstate New York, and then same thing in Ohio, and then kind of upper middle class in Atlanta. And then my dad actually ended up moving to Clearwater, Florida. So like I said, there was all these different places on the northeastern, southeastern seaboard. And that allowed me to learn how to communicate with people.
And I think you've also, going from your childhood and from sort of, I guess, poverty to affluence, then you've also lost it all later as an adult, right? And then you sort of built yourself up again. Correct.
Yeah, as my story is very well known, you know, from Mike and other podcasts I've done, and I'm very open, very transparent. And I think that deserves a point. I think being transparent and being authentic in today's day and age is huge, right? Because the veil is pretty smoky and pretty cloudy for most of the mainstream today. I think most people of some form of awareness and high conscious know that, you know, most everything is BS. Like Mike's old blog, right? Like everything I was ever told was a lie, right? Like the majority of the mainstream is built on, you know, disinformation or illusion or smokescreen or all of the above. And so it's like when you're more open about your experiences and open about your you know, who you are, I think you resonate deeper with most people, because they kind of say, well, like, this is a guy who's not afraid to tell people his life story and put himself out there, regardless if it's good or bad. But yeah, dude, you know, my story is pretty obvious. I think most people know it. I can share it with you real quick. You know, I went to jail and was charged with multiple felony counts and had my kids kidnapped, lost my job, lost my house. A lot of bad stuff happened to me, you know, and I pretty much essentially had to rebuild myself from ashes in the year 2012. You know, I met my lovely, amazing rainbow unicorn wife, Monica Diaz, and she coached me up, you know, to who I am now today. And, you know, my story in the last 5 years, if you would have told me 5.5 years ago, almost 6 years now, where I was then to where I would be now, I wouldn't have believed you. But it's all a product of, you know, really awesome coaching, being around the right people, and then just truly a conscious effort of saying, I'm going to be a man of action.
Yeah. And I think the fact that you've been through all of these states in your personal life, it gives you an appreciation for the people around you that you will encounter and the people that you meet, and an appreciation of their possible situations, so that you would never I'm assuming that you would never take advantage of people or look down on them, or it gives you a much better appreciation of the worth of the human beings around you, right?
Absolutely, man. And I wasn't always like that. And as you know, we all consciously evolve as we go through life. In my 30s, I was very ego driven, very about the money, very about, the whole American materialistic dream. And of course, and I tell everybody this, I truly believe that the reason I fell like I did was because I had to learn, it was a lesson. And that's the thing, Nabil. And I wasn't, again, always like this, but I look at everything now as like, I used to label those things as failures or mistakes or problems or just, bad, occurrences. And now I just look at it from the opposite perspective. I look at it, that was a learning experience for me. Yeah. I don't label it good or bad. I just look at it as like, wow, that was the gift. The gift was the contrast.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get into the techniques proper. When you're starting out trying to network with someone, what is to you the most important consideration sort of when you're trying to get to know somebody?
Sure. It's a great question. I think that this is maybe the most relevant question of our entire interview on the show today, because I believe, and this is my opinion, but obviously I'm out there interviewing a lot of people, talking to a lot of people. I believe that social connection, one-on-one human interaction is a lost art. I believe that technology, transhumanism, AI, all the nonsense has created this veil where so many young men and women of today are connecting via technology, and they're not connecting via one-on-one personal communication. Now, obviously, you and I are speaking from literally a great distance away, and so technology is allowing us to have this amazing rapport building and relationship stuff. So there is obviously some advantages to it, but most people today, especially younger ones, don't understand how to walk up to another human being, look them in the eye, smile, okay, provide, strong, positive, charismatic body language, and shake their hand and introduce themselves. It's a lost art. And so to me, that is the easiest way that you can set yourself apart from other people, is by walking up to people, giving them a firm, professional, quality handshake, looking them in the eye and smiling and introducing yourself by saying, "Hi, my name is Jay Campbell. What is your name?"
Yeah. And I don't know, I think you guys have talked about this as well on various occasions. People just are not able to keep eye contact anymore. They're not able to give eye contact and maintain eye contact. Is that something that you've noticed as well?
Yeah, Mike and I used to talk about that. We used to play the game in Santa Monica on the promenade, where we would literally like walk down the promenade and try to make eye contact with every man we could, and less than, out of 100, less than 10 men would make eye contact with you. So, and this, I don't want to make this conversation, where it's going, because, the natural evolution of this is the downgrading of hormones and, the emasculation of men, the loss of masculinity, the loss of like what men should actually feel like. So many men are, drowned in a wash of estrogen and feelings of not knowing their place. And so, it's like, I don't want to make eye contact with a guy who's masculine or carries himself as quote unquote alpha like, because then something might happen. So there's just a lot going on in this weird world that we find ourselves in today, where men are definitely afraid in a lot of ways of like making direct eye contact. And then there's also the whole, they don't know how to do it. It's a lost art. They're playing video games all the time, or they're not actually in one-on-one personal communication. And so they don't really understand how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's definitely, this isn't a sort of interview about the TRT stuff. So, but I do feel, like you mentioned it just now, I do feel it does have something to do with it, because normally like a hormone, I guess you're not even optimized, but like a normal male has a certain level of confidence about him in a social interaction. Because of, the factors that you mentioned, it could be that this natural level of social competence and social fluency is also being affected as the sort of testosterone and hormone, situation of males decrease.
It absolutely is, without question. I mean, men, when they're masculine, I mean, again, it's simple, without going into a deep discussion, we know this, it's all in my book, it's all documented, the data is there. 60 years ago, men had double the rate of testosterone that naturally that men walking around in society do today. So what that means in like a general total testosterone range is guys were in the 800s and 900s, and now they're walking around in the 300s or 400s. So it definitely makes them less energetic. It makes them less ambitious. It makes them less, outgoing, wanting to take on life. There's no question. There's definitely a correlation.
Yeah. You probably saw that meme that was going around, or the BuzzFeed news that was going on. The three of those BuzzFeed authors,
all of them had below 200 total testosterone.
You're like 300 to 200, and then the guy who's measuring was like, "Yeah, you're normal. You're in normal range."
I mean, even my dad, it's so funny. I mean, again, this is a story. We don't want to make this a conversation, but like my dad is a very masculine man. He's 71 years old. He raised 9 children, very successful, very well-to-do. Him and I do not see eye to eye. We're very similar people. But, I finally convinced him to get his testosterone looked at. And he sent me, a text message yesterday. I should probably put it on screen, but I won't. And it was like, the typical story, Nabil, that we joke around about on Twitter all the time. The doctor, which is probably an HMO doctor, said, "Oh, don't worry about it. You're fine." And so, I'm asking my dad, "What does that mean?" And he's like, "Oh, well, you were around 500 and blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "Dad, you have a right to get your lab work. It's a legal right of yours for them to send it to you." But again, the point is the average physician in all parts of the world, in your world, in my world, in North America, they don't even understand how to test for it, or when the test results come back, to how to even, explain it to their patient. It's just, we live in like, it's the Matrix. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And my dad is a highly educated, extremely sophisticated, well-to-do man, who ran successful businesses, retired a multimillionaire, and he has no earthly idea what he's talking about or how to even get good intel when it comes to this subject. I mean, it's crazy how weird our society is about this.
Yeah, definitely. We could turn this into another another hour of talking about the craziness.
No, let's go. Networking like a pro.
Let's move on. So now you've introduced yourself to him in a confident way. What is the next consideration when you're trying to get to know somebody?
So for me, it's a great question. Is just asking them. This is a tricky question because you don't want to immediately jump into, "Oh, well, what do you do?" The average guy, this is kind of like we could correlate this to dating. The average guy talking to a woman, if he's done it right, and most guys don't even do it right? Because they're not asking them what I said, which is you introduce yourself by saying your name and smiling and making direct eye contact. It's usually like, "Oh, well, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a doctor," or, they introduce the ego and the money and I'm status. This is with me. So you don't want to get right into, "Oh, well, what do you do for a living?" I mean, it depends on the situation, but it's more of like, "Oh, so, awesome, man. So what are you doing here? What's going on?" You want to give them a vibe of kind of you're interested in their life, but not so much that you jump into the, cliche, "Oh, so what do you do?" You know what I mean? Because then it just becomes silly. I mean, that's going to come out if you build a relationship and you build rapport with that person. But the easiest way, in my opinion, right there to build rapport is to say, "Oh, so what are you doing here?" Especially if you're, at a social convention, or maybe it's a seminar, or it's just a general like open socialized place where you're talking to people. Because it just, to me, it's become too cliche to walk up to somebody and start talking to them about their career. "What do you do?" Because especially as in today's day and age, man, people are doing a lot of things. If somebody asks me that, by the way, you know what I say? I say, "I'm a gypsy." I do. Because there's so many things that define what I do.
Yeah. There's this anecdote. One of my teachers, his name is Remy Tseti. He tells this joke where like he'll show up to a party in a suit, and then when anyone asks him, "What do you do?" he says, "I'm a garbage man." And then when they act incredulous, it's like, "No, you don't stop bullshitting us." He's like, "What? A guy can't work sanitation in the morning and dress up at night?"
Exactly. That's perfectly apropos.
Yeah. And I mean, whenever that question gets asked of me, and it's like the first like 10 to 30 seconds of meeting somebody, I always get weirded out. Like we just met. Like
exactly. Like, what do you care, right? It's like a network marketer. "Oh, well, what do you do?" And then they say, "Oh, I'm in sales." Well, guess what? Today's your lucky day.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you want to ease into the conversation and start off with something a little light. And I think that's also something that has the art of small talk is lost on us
Totally.
because we're in such a fast-paced world, and it's very, drive through, get my fast food order. So 140 character tweets, everything. The half-life of everything is like a few seconds or less. So I think that sort of skill of small talk is non-existent anymore. We just want to get straight to, the business.
So a great point on that, and it's elegantly said, is, and I'll use my wife, my coach, my life coach. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That adage, that axiom is so relevant to networking. And obviously when you build, a rapport or a relationship with someone in 25, 30, 40 seconds or whatever limited time you have, you don't establish that credibility with a person until they can actually see that you're interested in who they are as a person. And as you said, those other two things are just, small talk. That means it's drivel. I mean, it's drivel. It's just like, I don't really want to be here talking to you or whatever. So I'm just like making up statements to say, to stand next to you. Right. So what you could do is like, oh, wow, are you married? Cool. Do you have children? You take an interest in who they are as a person, even though when you don't really even know this person at all. But if you feel like you're going to be there for a couple minutes, again, that's the easiest way to build rapport without question right there. So you get involved in taking an interest in who they are as a human being versus who they are as somebody in business that you're going to ask them, false questions about.
Yeah, and I've heard it worded a different way as well. They say, if you want to be interesting, become interested.
Exactly. Well said. Yep. I think me and Mike talked about that. The other axiom is nothing is interesting unless you're interested. So, it's a similar thing, but yeah, I mean, really, when you're in a small quarter sitting, especially when it's loud, if you're in an open social, a lot of ambiance going on in the background, or maybe it's music or whatever, you're in a bar or something like that. It is hard to not, I shouldn't say hard, but it may become difficult to get that person's like center. And so that they're really actually listening. Especially as you said, there's so much distraction. They might have their phone in their hand. You can talk to them and then all of a sudden they look at their phone. Normally that's actually a good seek. When I walk into a room now, that I'm not distracted and I'm there for a specific reason to build relationships or to get knowledge or intel, my phone is in my pocket.
Yeah.
Like this. It's not in my hand, because it's in my hand, it's leading to distraction. I mean, I'm setting myself up for distraction by having it in my hand. So my phone is in my pocket and it's on silent. It's not vibrating. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not always screen face. That's what we call it in our family. Screen face. Because you can be screen faced in a second. And as soon as you screen face, to me, you're not interested. You're tuned out. That person's not paying attention. And again, I'm not perfect at this. I do this. I mean, today interviewing this, my sales director and I interviewed this awesome candidate to be an agent for us. And she was incredible. I mean, blew my mind, very, very polished, not even that old, just very polished. And I had the cardinal sin. I had the phone on the table we were interviewing and I had it turned over, but I had it on vibrate. So it went, and I picked up my phone and it was Monica and it was important, but that should not have happened.
Yeah. And I think even if you don't have your phone in your hand and it's on silent, you can still sort of check out of the conversation.
Absolutely.
And people notice that immediately, that when you're no longer present, when your mind isn't focused on the conversation. So what do you do? Do you have some tips on how to stay present in a conversation that you're having with somebody so that you don't get screen faced, as you put it?
Yeah. Honestly, the easiest, simplest, most direct Occam's razor answer is listen. I always say this whenever I'm training my salespeople, whenever I'm having conversations, we do a lot of role playing. You don't need to be thinking about what you have to say or what you might say or what you might not say or what you shouldn't say if you listen to the other person. So you have to probe again. And again, obviously this is relevant to how many questions you can ask, but you always have to probe. And you probe tactfully and professionally and with respect and class. But if you listen to the person, there's no way that you're going to get distracted. But that's the issue, is that most people don't listen. They have a preconceived idea of what the person may or may not say, and their answer, they're already going to their ego mind of like, okay, I'm going to anticipate, and this is my program response.
Yeah. And that's extremely difficult for me, just going by my own experiences of, conversing with people. Like, a person will start talking, and 10 seconds into it, I'm thinking of my response. To the extent that sometimes, I don't know, my short-term memory has gone to shit over the past couple of years, but to the extent that I'll be so in my head thinking of my response, I will actually forget what they said by the end of their sentence.
Amazing. It's amazing. That's very normal, man. That's the ego mind. I mean, I just literally did a podcast today, not to change the topic, of somebody who literally says the ego is a program. And that we're literally, in this 3D matrix of holographic reality of what we live in right now. You have to be able to dissolve the program to truly be present, right? Like, we listen to all the great spiritual gurus, them. They all talk about, living in the now. And there's a million different words for it. But, you can't live in the now if your ego is calling the shots and doing the thinking and the programming. That's why, as meditation is so huge in life, because you have to be able to remove the conscious mind. You have to be able to look at things from outside of this human, physical, material, matter realm existence, which is ego. But it's true, dude. I mean, like, what you're saying is everyone experiences that. If you're on a job interview, of course that's the case. You're already like, oh my God, this guy's going to ask me, 1,000 different questions. Here's the permutations. Which are the answers? So it's like, you're already anticipating it, so it's, unless it's just completely, you're silent and you're not expecting anything when you walk into a room or to a social area, that's going to happen.
And I mean, so you said it happens to everybody, and it happens generally all the time. We have to be, conscious of it. If you feel like you're checking out, do you have any techniques that you use to check back in?
Humor. Humor. You introduce humor. You say something to them. You say, you don't say like, I didn't hear what you just said. Say that again. But you try to find something funny. And usually it's tough, because like, people that are not very confident about themselves, I don't like to use self-deprecating humor, because then that can go really bad, especially for people that are very introverted. But for someone like me, I will usually do something self-deprecating to make the person laugh. And then maybe that person, male or female, may say something or laugh or something like that, and say, why would you say, just to get you back in. So then it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you were boring me. I literally will turn it around sometimes if I'm losing it and I really do want to be there, and just say, I'm sorry, man, you were boring me. Again, it's that authenticity, it's the transparency. A lot of people will say to me a lot, like my sales director, like, he'll say to people when we interview them, they say, look, Jay is a very brazen, tell you to your face, no filter kind of guy. And he'll light you on fire before he apologizes. But that's because he truly cares. And he's not like a lot of people, because he'll tell you to your face what he's thinking. So it's like, for me, like and that's my blessing. I have the ability to be honest without a concern of like, the social mores that most people like, hold so tight to their vest, that like, oh, I can't do this, or, oh, I can't be this way, or, oh, I can't say that, or I don't like live my life by that. And not to go off on a tangent, but I feel like when you get to a point in your life where you don't fear death, you don't fear the physical experience, then you can be more confident about not worrying about saying stupid, little things that somebody might take as offensive, because, that's the way the world's supposed to work. So I kind of feel like you have to have the confidence that you're not worried about saying something that somebody might take offense to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And then obviously people in this sort of time of political correctness and people not saying what they mean, I think a lot of people will appreciate that level of honesty, even though it might take them aback at first, because they're so used to bullshitting them, right?
Well, some people, dude, you're so right. That's a very good point. You're right. Some people, it's like Mike. Mike used to say, you're going to hate me at first, but you're going to learn to like me. because what I say will resonate with you, right? It's true. It's like I'm one of those people like him in that I may say something that you literally under your breath, when I say it, you're like saying, he did not just say that to me. Because you're not ready, like you said, in the level of society where we are today for people to be so openly, brazenly honest. I'm not going to insult you to your face, but I may say something that may make you think like, wow, I can't believe he just said that. I mean, because again, I don't have, how do I say it? I don't fear reprisal.
Yeah. So let's say now you've created the relationship with the person, and it's going well. What do you do to sort of take it to the next step? Obviously, because you're talking to him because at some point you want something out of the relationship, and they know it as well. You're just doing this dance.
It's a great question, Bill. It's a great question, and I can actually correlate it to just Saturday. As you know, I was just with Mike for the first time in a year. There were a bunch of dignitary people that were his friends there. Rich Halverson, amazing dude. And I'll just say him, I'm looking at him and I'm like, wow, I'm pretty awe of this guy's accomplishments. He has all these companies. He's a 36-year-old guy. He's very, very accomplished dude, Harvard guy. And he's more like looking at me like, oh my God, you're Jay Campbell. You're the TRT guy. He's like asking me all these questions. So both of us are in a position of like, wow, we're venerating each other. And now it's like, okay, so we built this relationship. He understands me. I understand him. What's next? Well, what's next is, hey, man, this has been awesome. I really want to communicate with you further when I'm not here and you go your separate ways. Here's my phone contact. Put your information in my phone. And I always do this now. I don't play the game of like sitting there and trying to type in their information. I hand them my phone and I say, please type in your contact. Give me your name, your email address, and your phone number. Okay, because I have a really cool app, and I'm happy to share this. It's called Full Contact. It's based out of a company in Colorado. As soon as you put your information in there, they immediately do the reverse lookup of all your social. And so within an hour of putting them in my contacts, I have all of their social media that's identified and public in my contact, which is awesome.
Okay.
Right? So that's a really cool way to build a bigger relationship with someone that you found a mutual interest in. And to answer your question, because it was a great question, yes, there's always going to be there's a quid pro quo. I'm going to give you my contact information. Yeah, we just had this pleasant conversation, but I'm going to give you my contact information and you're going to give yours back to me, because somewhere down the road, there's an angle of reciprocity. And that reciprocity may not be understood right now, but down the road, it will be. And again, to me, you're not going to do this with somebody that doesn't make an impact on you. And him and there was another guy, and I forget his name right now, but he's also on my phone, and one of Mike's guys. He's actually a huge Bitcoin guy. And I have no doubt, Nabil, that somewhere down the road, him and I, or all three of us, will communicate again, and there will be some form of business opportunity, networking, a referral to another person. I mean, for these guys, if you were going to put a gun to my head right now, these guys obviously want me to find them a doctor when they need TRT, which both of them say, it's my time. They're both in their mid-30s. It is what it is. So, that's cool. And I don't look at them as using me. I mean, they're obviously saying, hey, this is the guy. He's the thought leader. He knows everybody. He's the guy that I want to use. And I look back at those guys and I say, hey, these guys are young. They're professional. They're going places. They have connections in different worlds that I'm not familiar with. And at some point, I'll be able to get their connections and also use them for myself. And so that facilitation is, again, reciprocal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think this might seem sort of counterintuitive, but in order to get something from somebody, you have to be able to give without any expectation of reciprocity. Isn't that correct?
That's the smartest thing you said the whole day today. Like every interview I give, and everyone I talk to, they say, what motivates you? What drives you? Like some of the guys I mentor, they always say, like, for your book, what is the most important goal of the book? And I always say this, the goal of the book is to help as many men as I can. Sometimes I'll say, just quickly, I'll say it's, millions. I want millions of people to have access to the information that I can give. And as you know, I do it, and we can talk about that too. I do it for free. I mean, obviously there's a shipping fee usually involved in getting the books if you're in, the country that it's being the program's at, but I'm not about, I mean, sure, money is important. You have to make money to survive in the world. Money, I always say this, money is energy. Okay. If you give it out, it's going to come back. It's the karmic law of the universe. I just did a podcast talking about this. People get screwed up in money because they think that they become preoccupied with either holding on to it or making more of it. And as my wife, I'll go back to her, what you resist persists in everything in life. There's nothing that adage does not apply to. So in this relationship aspect of things, it's all being giving. It's being servicing to others all the time, above all else, and it will come back to you. There's no question about it. And you know that. And everything I do and all my marketing and everything I do, it's about giving, giving, giving. I mean, the book promotion, and thank you for sharing it, by the way. I got a ton of your people. So many of your followers came to me. I'm giving out 600 free books. If I was somebody that was concerned with money, I would look at it from an Amazon standpoint that I just gave up $15,000, but I don't look at that. I look at how many people can I share this book with, how many people then in the social cloud aspect and the Pareto principle, then how many people can they share it with, and then so on and so forth. And then it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty soon it's a conscious movement of like, oh my God, I have to optimize my life.
Yeah, you know what? You brought up an amazing point, because I have spoken to a bunch of authors that are sort of complaining about how hard it is to sell books.
Oh my God, dude, she is so beautiful. She definitely takes after your wife. Thank God.
Yeah. All my daughters look like my wife. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Beautiful.
All right. We're just talking to Jay, Uncle Jay. All right. So, where was I? Okay.
You said a bunch of authors. Yep.
Yeah. And they don't get this concept of giving away your book for free so that you can sell more books down the line. Exactly. Okay. That's one aspect. And when I explain it to them and say, just give your book away to people, and then you're going to end up selling more. That's how it works. And the other aspect is, because I understand your why, your vision, I am more inclined as one of your friends and supporters to go out of my way to help promote your work. So I'm posting your stuff as soon as I heard it's out, and you did the Thanksgiving 24 hours giveaway. I post on Twitter, all my social feeds, and I send an email to my list. Because, I mean, a lot of people will just retweet your tweet, and then that's the end of it. Oh, I did my part, but I didn't do that. All my Facebook feeds and an email on my Twitter and an email to my list, which altogether took me like, 15 to 20 minutes to do, which is less than the 10 seconds most people will do with just a retweet.
And I appreciate that, brother. I have mad gratitude for you to do that, for sure.
Yeah. And it's also, for me, doing that, it's sort of a way to test the engagement of my list. So depending on how many people reply to you, because I told them to do specific things so that I would be able to track how many people replied. So now I can see, okay, if I do send out a request like this, how many people are going to respond? And that'll sort of trace the sort of engaged or switched onness of my list.
Honestly, I can tell you that. I mean, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I know I got at least between 50 and 75 guys from your deal, for sure. So that's like almost a sixth of the total amount. So, I mean, again, man, power to you. But you're right. I mean, the moral of that is that helps. You're helping me and I'm helping you, because now it's the same thing, right? Anything that you do, I'm going to promote as much as I possibly can too, when there's obviously an opportunity to promote what you do. So you're right. And so on and so forth it goes. Like you said at the very beginning of the show, I'm really good at building relationships and making people feel welcome, and that I respect, and I'm humbly honored to be, with them. And I always say that whenever I do a podcast with anybody, I always tell them, and it's from the heart. Yeah. I'm privileged to be here today speaking with you, just as I am right now with you. And I mean that. I don't say things just to say them. I say it because I'm heart chakra. I lead by my heart chakra. I'm very heart focused. And when I say it, I mean it, because I am humbly blessed being here right now speaking with you.
Yeah. And that's just a fact, isn't it? It's just like we're connecting from across the world. We're 12 hours apart on the internet in a live video call. Connection is great. We've shared it live with, hundreds of people, and, thousands more are going to see it after it gets posted.
Yep.
So it really is actually a privilege and a blessing to be, talking to each other today.
For sure.
Yeah. How do you, obviously you're great at networking. How do you maintain your network and keep it sort of warm? What do you have any, techniques that you use, or apps, or a system that you use?
That's a great question. It changes so, dramatically now with technology evolving at the rate and speed that it is. I do have a huge mail list. I obviously I can't opt in everybody that I meet in the real world, but a lot of my people do end up signing up because I give away so much free stuff. I kind of feel like as much content as I can generate, offering. So what I do now, for example, whenever I do a live broadcast, like I'll do at the end of this, I'll always tell anybody watching this show, send me an email to j@trtrevolution.com, and I will send you any product I have in PDF format that can be emailed for free, right? And then I always ask in the background, I'll say, hey, if I'm giving you away my books, I would love if you found value in them to leave me a 5-star review on Amazon, right? So again, it's the reciprocity. I'm giving you some free books. It would be awesome if you found value once you read them, if you then left me a review. And then, as you know, because I do this on Twitter and I get very good, successful strategy in doing this, I'll say, if you do that and then you send me a screenshot, I'll send you more stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's just constant give back. Now, some people find fault in that and they'll say you can't, offer people things in lieu of other things, but I never, ever do it in that way. I always do it in the spirit of free giving. I don't care if you find value in this. I'm not asking you beyond that because I'm initiating the free stuff. You don't have to do anything beyond just accept my free gift. But if you find value in it, I would love, because you'll help me out. And you're right. Most human beings, not the bots out there, but most free human beings will do that because that, in my opinion, deep down the soul, people are giving. People are loving at first reaction to anything. And when you do right by them, it's most likely they're going to do right by you.
Yeah. And again, that's the same principle in play. You're giving without the expectation of receiving anything in return. If you get something else on top of that, that's just icing on the cake. But still, when you do that, you'll get some douchebags tweeting at you, yo, I signed up for a free book. I didn't sign up for spam.
Don't send me an email.
Like, what's up? What is wrong with these people, man?
They're bots, man. It's like I said, my that's not this is not the conversation here, but they're soulless, dude. They're programmed by society and the matrix and the mainstream, and they just don't really have any conscious expression of reality. That's not the conversation here, but I really do believe they're bots. I believe there are humans out there today that are soulless. I really do believe that.
Yeah. That's a live interview for your Decoders of Truth podcast,
which you and I have done, as we know.
Yeah, we have. We did one for those of you listening. We did one on jinn and black magic.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Sort of black magic and exorcism in Islam.
Everybody, Nabil is woke. Like Joe Rogan says, he woke, dude.
So do you have a system for sort of keeping the contacts list on your phone warm? Do you do anything specific for that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So Full Contact is my go-to on my phone. I use iOS. I'm a big Mac dork. I also use Infusionsoft. I use MailChimp. For my real estate company, I have 2 different CRMs. I have Contactually, and I also have Follow Up Boss, which is more real estate centric. But yeah, I'm really big on contact management. My wife is not, I'm the contact management for our business. It's automated now and I have help, but it's for me, if I find value in a human being that I meet and I have a very pleasant conversation and I see a potential business synergy at some point, somewhere down the road, I will feel personally ashamed if I do not get their contact information. And I always, without fail, will make sure that I initiate asking for it. I don't sit there and hope that they may come to me. And that's the whole story of life. You know that the early bird gets the worm. I mean, and again, you know what? This is very important. And I think it's perfectly relevant here because I just did this podcast with Jeff Doherty early this afternoon. It was a phenomenal podcast. And, how many people, Nabil, in their life today truly know what they want? It's mind-blowing to me to find so many people who never even ask themselves the question. They go to college because they're told that's what they should do. They should get a college degree. And then they get a job because it's the job that they interviewed for that was offered to them. And then they're in the cubicle. And then they get married. And now they're in debt. And they got payments. And now they have kids. I mean, until you ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want to do? And so you can actually identify what your mission is. And again, I'm not perfect. I did not figure out my mission until I was 42 years old. I am almost 47. I'll be 47 in February. It's not a coincidence that I found all this out once I met my wife. It was like I was meant to meet her. And I do believe, and you and I have talked about this many times, there are no coincidences in this world. Yeah. Everything happens for a reason. So most people, the biggest thing they can do to themselves to obviously improve everything about their life from a networking perspective to their relationships is to get clarity on what you want.
Yeah, I think that's essential, because if you don't have that clarity, then you'll be sort of on the fence and in two minds. Should I ask him for the contact info or not? It gives you the confidence to ask, please put your contact information in my phone. And it gives them the confidence to see that, okay, this guy is somebody that I want to be in touch with. Because just the act of handing him your phone and commanding him, it's a command. It's not a, please, can you give me my phone number and your email address? It's a command, obviously a polite command and a respectful command, but you're asking him, please enter your contact details in the phone. Does that seem right?
It does. I mean, again, for me, it's just three things because of technology I have, finds their social name, email, and phone number. And sometimes they don't give me your number, and it's fine. The email they do the reverse lookup too, so I can find them on social, and then you can ping them instant message. But I mean, the cool thing for me now is because my mission is so obvious, and I'm in a place where, people are talking to me, and, a lot of times now if I go out, they just know me because of the relationships I have with other people in the place. They know that I can, and again, this is why I'm humbly blessed for this. They know that I can bring value to their life. A lot of people now see me as like the TRT, TOT optimization guy. So for them, the reciprocity is like, it's inborn because they already know by talking to me, like, okay, this guy's going to help me. So what do I got to do to give back? Now, it's not like that for everybody, but obviously the tips that you and I have been talking about on this broadcast can definitely be used, specifically for that reason. But yeah, I mean, again, you also have to have the body language. You and I talked about that on our last podcast. Body language is absolutely huge. Again, social presence, alpha posture, shoulders back, feel confident, exude energy. Exude confidence, exude energy. And again, always making eye contact with a person, and don't have resting bitch face. My wife really corrected that on me. I'm a big, impressive physical human being. And when she first met me, she was like, most people are scared shitless of you. And I'm like, why are you talking about that? She's like, because you don't smile enough when you're just out in public.
Yeah.
So, I have an intense look. So I've really learned to relax my facial features so that I smile more. I don't always do it, but I try to make a conscious effort to smile more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you mentioned a very important point. People can tell, it's not just the eye contact, it's the body position. So people can tell when you're sort of angling away from them or leaning away from them. So even if you've got eye contact, it's important to actually face the person fully and present yourself to the person fully. Because, if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, if you're fully facing the person, then that person is able to perceive whether or not you are a threat or a friend. Because if I'm turned sort of to the sideways and leaning back, I might be preparing to attack you or something like that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, biolanguage is so big, and reading people's biorhythms, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I mean, like I always tell people this, there's two reasons, there's two things that body language, understanding body language can help you more than anything in life. And that is dating and building an amazing relationship with your children, because your children are they give off the most incredible body language ever. So when you can read body language like a pro, then and obviously sales, it's huge in sales too. But like for most people today, especially men who struggle with dating, I mean, body language, becoming a body language master that's the key.
Mm. And you, I'm sure you manage thousands, if not tens of thousands of contacts. What is the sort of minimum level of interaction that you would have with the people on your contact list to make sure that you're touching base with them at least, once every few months, or once, at least once a year, I suppose, for the ones that are not so close?
So that's actually an amazing question. I don't even know how, I really don't have the right answer. I wish I did. Obviously I send out a weekly email to my list, which my list is almost 20,000 people now. Mm-hmm. So I send that out weekly, and that's obviously scripted. I do look at it. I do personally get to edit it about 15 minutes a week. And I don't know how many people actually read that. I mean, I do, but I mean, like, consciously I'm sending it out. So, I mean, how many people read it or whatever is not, the return is low. But I do, from a real estate, and I kind of have to break it up into quadrants. From a real estate perspective, we recently did this, and I have a big real estate list. It's about 13,000 people. We put all of our past clients from the last 4 years into a CRM that's part of our video technology that we use to send out videos to. It's called BombBomb. Really cool, slick tech. And so it's a perfect way for me and Monica to be very personalized and send out a video to our real estate clients that are, meaningful and recently transacted with us over the last 4 years in a very quick, cogent, mass delivery way. The other people, like in my inner database, I mean, honestly, Neil, I don't feel like I probably do a great job in communicating with them on a regular basis. I mean, between the emails, between all my social media, I think the only answer is I put out prodigious amounts of content. I hope that my fans, my friends, my community, my tribe watches the content. And then my only hope beyond that is I hope that they then reach out to me because I engaged them in a way that affected positively in their life. Because I will say this, and anyone who knows me does this, and this is to the chagrin of a lot of people who are close to me in my inner circle, I respond to everyone. And it is difficult because I am getting, a lot. I don't even want to see my inbox right now because I'm so very generous in giving out my email address to so many people. And honestly, at this point in my life, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to maintain the return of every single message, but I'm right now at this point, I still do. I'm literally now about 48 hours behind most people. But I do return the messages. Now, I have a lot of people in my inner circle saying, you got to stop that. You're going to die. There's a lot of thought leaders out there that return nobody's messages. Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan are not responding to personal emails. They just can't. They just can't. Now, I'm not at their level, obviously, yet, but I'm probably on that route. And so at some point, I'm going to have to consciously choose to not be Jay Campbell anymore.
Most superstars on their way up will, and this is why they become superstars in the first place, because they are doing what you're doing.
Right.
They treat every interaction as if it's, an important personal interaction with a close friend. So obviously, what you're doing is that's table stakes, right? Especially if you have the ability, now you're growing, you're becoming more popular, your brand is exploding, you're becoming obviously much more busy because of all the projects that you've got going on. The fact that you're able to do that speaks to your, your character and your skill at networking, because eventually you're not going to be able to do it anymore. But the people who you did it for will remember down the line. I was there, when Jay Campbell was just a little guy. You're not a little guy. You're like 10 levels above me. I'm the little guy.
No, I got you, but you're right. You're right. No, the point, no, it's very, very cogent point. It's very, very true. And it hurts me. No, I'm not going to lie. I've lost sleep over that, because my wife will tell me right now, if I didn't have my morning ritual and I just went right headlong into my day every day now, I would waste 3 hours just trying to get through the messages. And I'll be open, very honest with you, because I love you, brother. There are only a few people that I'll do podcasts with now and network with. And you're obviously at the top of the list. I mean, most people I get a lot of requests, and if I don't know you, or I don't feel, the reciprocity, or I just don't have the time. I'm blessed to be that in demand right now. So, but it's true. Monica will tell me, and she's been very influential in this, I can't respond to the Facebook messages. I don't know how to identify this by talking about it, but how if they're a friend, they go into a separate, grouping for messages. Bro, I have 732 messages on Facebook right now. And those are all people that are not my friends, that are trying to ask test questions about TRT or optimization or whatever. And I just, as bad as I want to go in there and respond, I know that it will be a black hole. Yeah. And I won't be able to get out of it. So it's a choice. Unfortunately, it hurts me. It tugs at my heartstrings because I am a heart chakra, heart-centric dude. But bro, I can't do it. I mean, there's no bandwidth. I can't do it.
I don't know if Facebook already has this feature, but if they don't, they should sort of let you put an autoresponder message.
No, I have it. I have an autoresponder going back to them, but I mean, they're still unanswered. Still people with, real people with real concerns and problems and issues in their lives, but I just honestly don't have the bandwidth. And that's, again, why I say email me, because I will get it out to you. So, if you're not emailing me, then that, in my mind, that's how I kind of, segment you. Then you're not really paying attention, because I will get to your email, even if it takes me 48 to 72 hours, I will respond. And honestly, and this, most people are asking the same damn questions over and over and over and over. So it's like you're regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. So ultimately, eventually, I'm going to have, after this next book goes out, I'm going to have an FAQ document on my website. And it's going to kind of be like, hey, man, if you want to ask me a question, here's all the answers. It's most likely already been answered. But if you do happen to ask a question that hasn't been answered and it does get to me, I promise you I'll respond within 48 hours or 36 hours or something like that. So there's going to be a system in place. But it's unfortunate. And this, a lot of people are lazy, bro. They don't want to read the book. They don't want to get the information that's already out there 100 times. They want you to personally answer their question for them. And you just can't do it at a certain point.
Yeah, and this brings up a very important point. If you are trying to network with somebody like Jay, who's at Jay's level, you want to make it easy for them to respond positively. So if you're you want something from you want Jay to answer a question, or you have something from Jay, he gives out his email address so much. Why are you messaging him on Facebook? As well, don't ask him questions that that are already in his book, or that you can Google, or that you can read on his TRT Revolution website, which has hundreds of articles and dozens of podcasts. And when you do that, I mean, if you do that, then obviously you Jay are going to notice immediately that this guy hasn't put in any work whatsoever. He's just he wants to take up some of your time and attention just to feel validated or something like that. But if you actually take the time to do a little bit of research beforehand and ask him something that is something that is necessary for him to answer, and too easy for him to answer, you're going to be much more likely to get a response, because these people like Jay, people like Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan, they don't want to ignore you. It's just that because of their situation, because of how busy they are, they have to make a choice between, do I answer this frivolous email from this person who didn't bother to do 5 minutes of research, or do something that's more valuable that can help millions of people potentially.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that when you stop, and Josh Smith, my business partner, who's way more successful than me and is killing it in all areas of life, he chose 3 years ago consciously to you can't respond. And once you stop responding, they stop asking questions. So I've actually, as you know, because we've talked about this, I've dug my own hole. because I have literally responded to everybody, so freely and consciously. And honestly, and you know me, I don't just write a sentence. I will literally respond to your question. So I mean, I'm not at that level anymore where it's like, it has to be a really good question and I will spend 5 minutes on it. But I dug my own hole. So it's a lesson learned. It's hard. I am a very heart-centric dude. So if I can't respond, I sometimes wow, like Monica really had to help me with that, because it was burning me when I first started getting all those Facebook messages and I stopped. She would be like, what are you doing? So it's like, they're unopened. They sit there and I don't know. I just see the number.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but for me, yes, honey. Okay. Just give me 5 minutes. Okay. We're almost done.
Okay.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's what matters right there.
They're doing it on purpose. They want to.
Of course, they're interrupting on purpose.
Yeah. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Okay, honey, just give me 5 minutes, okay? All right. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Okay, I guess let's wrap it up.
Sure.
Because we've gone almost an hour now, and I forgot the last question that I was going to ask, and I think we've covered pretty much everything. So the definitive TRT manual guide, the present edition is available on Amazon, probably the best-selling book on hormone optimization in existence, with over 350, possibly closer to 400 5-star reviews now. The Advanced Strategies edition has just been finished, okay, and it will be published when?
January 15th, it'll be launched for a whole week. I have a large PR company called Bestseller Publishing that's behind it. You'll probably be seeing me. My star is about to ascend. You'll probably be seeing me on a lot of national stuff as part of their deal, in North America, most likely through, I'd say, probably the first 6 months. And then I have, once that book is out there for a couple of months and we build the brand and the credibility, and by the way, I'm going to send it to you tonight so you can look at it. It's a Google document. It's amazing, Nabil. I don't say that very easily, as you know, but we're going to launch TOT/Testosterone Optimization Therapy University. And that's going to be a very big global product because we want to help men, in parts of the world where physicians are clueless and incapable and not even understanding of what they're doing. So this will be like a way for men who can legally procure testosterone in their country or their nation state to go to their doctor and say, hey, doc, I know how to do this. Let's just watch this together. And if that doesn't work, then you take matters into your own hand. That's going to launch probably in June or July. And then my wife, Monica, and Dr. Jim Meehan's book, which is going to be called Cracking the Fountain of Youth Code, which is like the ultimate female hormone optimization guide, that will also launch around the same time. So It never ends, brother. It never ends.
And you've also got the metabolic blowtorch diet, which came out a month ago or a couple of months ago, which is also doing very well received in the community. A lot of reviews already. I think on day one or after a couple of days, it had well over 100 reviews, close to almost 200.
Yeah, we actually ended up launching with 171 reviews, and currently right now it has 214 5-star reviews. And yes, it's very well received in the fitness community, way beyond, even in the clinician and the RD, the registered dietitian community, way beyond what we expected or understood. Now, granted, as you know, I'm a very research-oriented guy. There's tons of research citations in there about extrapolating the data on how to optimize fasting. Most people missed out. The original fasting gurus, the Martin Burkans, the Ori Offemeyers, these guys were recommending people train on fasting days, and that's ignoring the science. So we changed it up and we said, look, fast as long as you can on your days you don't lift weights, and on the days you lift weights, you eat a normal diet, whatever your normal diet is relative to your insulin sensitivity and your body fat level. And so, yes, people of all walks of life, of all fitness levels, middle-aged, obese women and men who are not, fit chick types are having amazing results on it because, again, fasting works for everyone, dude. It really does.
It does. And then obviously this is proven for, okay, very nice. This is proven for.
Mama, I copied that off Mama's paper.
Man, they're beautiful. Dude, you're going to have serious trouble in 10 years.
They're going to be in burqas.
They'll be blocked off. I got you.
Yeah. So the fasting thing is like thousands of years old. Every religious tradition, every culture has some form of fasting, and obviously it just takes now people's worship of science to help them figure out what people have known for thousands of years,
exactly.
right?
I mean, again, it's modern technology. It's like we said, this is in the book. It's the truth is that we didn't even have 60 years ago all this instant gratification crap. People were lucky to get 2 or 3 meals then.
Yeah.
This is all modernization. It's AI. It's transhumanism, transmogrification, GMO, whatever you want to call it. It's just crap. All of it is not good for the human soul or physical body. It's not.
Yeah. All right, cool. So definitive TRT manual and metabolic blowtorch diet, and we'll give your buddy Jim a plug as well for Forge training. And Jay also has the TRT Revolution podcast on trtrevolution.com, as well as the esoteric stuff for you woke folk, the Decoders of Truth podcast and the Decoders of Truth Facebook group. And I'm obviously mentioning all of this for my audience because I'm sure your audience already knows this stuff. So that's where you can find Jay. You can find him on Twitter. He's very active. Usually he's trolling people when he's doing cardio at TRT Expert. Okay. So I think I got that covered where we can find you and support your work.
Yeah.
And
If people, one last thing, if people want to get on the waiting list for the new book, it's Advanced TRT. So Tom Roger Tom Manual, manual.com. And just go there and get on the waiting list. Now I'll just announce it right now because nobody knows this yet. We're not going to do the free book giveaway for the first 4 to 6 months because this book is too big from a standpoint of it's not going to make sense for us to send it in the mail. It's too big. So we're going to do it for Amazon, but we will ultimately eventually do it. And honestly, we want to do it. We're working on a distribution model where we're going to be able to do it globally. Unfortunately, normally it's limited to North America. But we're working on a distribution format. So hopefully like by middle of next year, we'll be able to give the book out and ship it, for a shipping fee to everybody for free around the world.
Okay. Excellent.
Awesome.
And obviously I'll drop all of the links in the show notes. So thank you, Jay, for enlightening us with your many years of wisdom and experience. So we really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And for everybody that was on my personal Facebook page who watched today or jumped in, we appreciate it, man. I have much love and gratitude for all of you guys. I saw a lot of your names. I saw some people from my past who were, in the very beginning of me who are here today. So, I mean, I'll make some shout outs. I saw Dave Leach in there, man. What's up, Dave? So a lot of people from my past are still, paying attention, and it's awesome. It's very humbling for me. And like I said, I'm blessed. Definitely.
Yeah. And I wonder if anybody's asking any questions. I'm looking in the chat right now. I don't see any.
No, I don't think so. Most people just commenting, sending me the book, great job, blah, blah, blah. I agree. So far, so good. Somebody said he's a Bitcoin guy. So no, it's just, I think people just watching. So hopefully if you have questions, and, I'm always open. If guys from your group have questions, dude, I'm sure we'll do another one soon. So just reach out to me.
Yeah. You can email him and he'll get to you in 48 to 72 hours, but don't message him on Facebook.
Copy of my book, please. I have no doubt it's already ready to send to you. Just like I always say, just if you find value, make sure you leave me a 5-star review on Amazon.
For sure, man. For sure. All right, there we go. That's all for this episode of the Becoming the Alpha Muslim podcast. If you enjoy the episode, please leave me a rating and review on iTunes. You can do it via the iTunes app on your phone or your desktop. For Jay Campbell and TRT Revolution and the Becoming the Alpha Muslim podcast, thank you for listening. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.